All right, let's talk about the #1 reason new businesses fail. It's not a lack of passion or a bad team. It's building something nobody actually wants. So today, we're going to show you how to get out of your own head, how to move from pure guesswork to solid evidence, and how to start building with real confidence. This quote, wow, it just hits you, right? It gets right to the core of the problem. See, it's usually not about having a bad idea. It's about treating your guesses like they're facts for way too long. The clock is always ticking, and your money isn't the only thing you're burning through. It's your time to figure out if you're even on the right track. And that's exactly what this explainer is all about. We're going to give you a practical framework to turn those big, scary guesses into actual knowledge. The whole point is to help you find your riskiest assumptions and test them quickly and cheaply. So first up, let's talk about this trap that so many of us fall into. Because every new idea, I don't care how brilliant it sounds, is built on a whole pile of things you think are true, but you don't know are true. And that right there is where the danger is.
So what exactly is an untested assumption? Well, think of it this way. It's all the silent beliefs that are holding your idea up. Things like, people will definitely want this, or we can build this, no problem, or of course people will pay for it. If you just ignore these fundamental questions, you're basically building a skyscraper on a foundation of sand.
And this right here, this is a huge mindset shift you have to make. Running a test isn't about passing or failing an exam. It's not about proving you were right all along. It's about turning on a flashlight in a dark room. It's there to illuminate the path forward, to show you where the opportunities are, and maybe even more importantly, to show you where the dead ends are.
Okay, so if we're stuck in this cycle of guesswork, how do we get out? How do we start building real knowledge? Well, it all starts with having the right tools to structure not just your experiments, but your thinking.
Meet your new best friend, the Strategizer Test Card. It looks simple, but this thing is incredibly powerful. It forces you to be brutally honest about your idea. You have to clearly state your belief. Then, you design a specific experiment to check if it's true. You define exactly what you're going to measure, and here's the kicker. You decide what success looks like before you even start the test. No moving the goalposts. No, well, I think it went pretty well. Just clear, objective results.
But listen, a tool like this is only as good as what you put into it. The value of any test card, any experiment you run, comes down entirely to the quality of the hypothesis you're testing. You know the saying, garbage in, garbage out. So what makes a hypothesis strong? It really boils down to these 3 things. First, it has to be testable. You need to be able to prove it true or false with actual evidence. Second, it's got to be precise. There can't be any gray area. You know exactly what success looks like. And finally, it has to be discrete, meaning you're only testing one single thing at a time. Don't muddy the waters. Let's make this super concrete. Look at the bad hypothesis. People want community. I mean, sure, that sounds nice, but what does it even mean? How could you possibly test that? Now look at the good one. It is a thing of beauty. It tells you who you're testing, early career developers. It tells you what you're offering, a private Discord on AI tools. It specifies the action, joining via an application, and it gives you a razor-sharp, time-bound metric for success, 30 signups in 48 hours. With that, there's no debate. You either hit the number or you don't.
Okay, so you're running these great tests, and you're starting to get data back. You're collecting evidence, but you have to understand that not all evidence is created equal. Some of it is just a faint whisper, while other bits are basically screaming the truth at you.
And here's maybe the most important distinction you can make. What people say versus what people do. What people say they'll do, in surveys and interviews, that's weak evidence. It's a nice starting point, but it's often wrong. What people actually do with their time, their money, their attention, that's strong evidence. Real-world behavior is where the truth lives.
This table lays it out perfectly. Over on the left, you've got things people say, interviews, focus groups, surveys. They're great for early discovery, but they're weak signals. On the right, you have things people do. An email sign-up is stronger than an opinion. A paid pre-order is even stronger. Just think about Tesla getting 325,000 paid deposits for the Model 3 before a single car was even made. That's not an opinion. That is incredibly strong evidence that people want what you have.
And here's the best part. You don't need a huge budget or a team of engineers to get this strong evidence. You can start today, for free. You can build a fake door. That's just a button on your website for a feature that doesn't exist yet, just to see if anyone clicks it. You can run a concierge test, where you manually do everything for your first few customers to learn what they really value. Or try a Wizard of Oz test,
where the front end looks automated, but it's actually you behind the curtain, pulling all the levers. These are real, practical things you can do tonight to start learning. So you've run your test, you've collected some evidence. The job isn't done yet. In fact, the most important part is just beginning. The real goal isn't just to get a pass-fail grade, it's to generate insights that tell you what to do next.
This is where the learning card comes in. It's the other side of the coin to the test card. It creates this powerful loop of learning and action. First, you restate the hypothesis you were testing. Then you write down what you actually observed, the raw data, no sugarcoating. Then the magic happens. You extract the key insight. What did this really teach you? And based on that learning, you decide what you're going to do next. Will you pivot? Will you persevere? Or will you run another test? This process makes sure that every experiment, whether it succeeded or failed, moves you forward.
I absolutely love this quote. It perfectly sums up the cost of skipping this process. Every single line of code you write, every hour you spend building something based on a guess, it's a gamble. You're basically paying tuition to learn a lesson the hard way. Testing lets you make a series of small, cheap bets to find the truth, instead of one massive, expensive one that could sink your entire project.
So, as we wrap things up, I want to leave you with this one question. I want you to really think about your own idea or your own project right now. What is the single biggest belief that everything else depends on? What's the one thing that, if it turned out to be false, would cause the entire house of cards to collapse?
Because that's your starting line. That's where you need to point your flashlight first. Don't waste time testing the easy, comfortable stuff. Go after the scary stuff. Find that one make-or-break assumption and design the smallest, fastest, cheapest experiment you can to get an answer. That's how you go from guesswork to evidence. And that, my friends, is how you build something that actually matters.